Hi guys, welcome back to the Cosmic Revolution YouTube channel. For those of you who don't know me, I am Maddie Murphy. I am an intuitive healer, astrologer, and empowerment coach. And today I wanted to talk to you about something you might have heard buzzing around the internet, the Instagrams. Venus retrograde is upon us. So what does this mean? I know whenever we hear the R, the re word, we get a little bit freaked out, we get a little scared. So I just wanted to make a video to kind of speak some truth to what are the invitations right now? What are the things that we can do to use this cycle to really go deeper within ourselves, to figure out how we can love ourselves deeper, how we can show ourselves more compassion, how can we up-level our relationships and really expand our container, because that's truly what this Venus retrograde is about. So just the nitty-gritty first and foremost, this cycle started May 12th and will end June 25th. And Venus isn't like Mercury that goes, Mercury goes retrograde 4 times a year. We have Pluto goes retrograde once a year. Same thing with Jupiter, Saturn. Venus is like a little different. She marches to the beat of her own drums. She is the goddess planet, after all, of pleasure, love, beauty, finances. And so she takes her time, and she takes about 18 months to complete her cycle. And so we had our last Venus retrograde was in 2018. So you can also think about, first, as we set the stage for the retrograde, what have I learned about myself, my worthiness, my relationships, what I need in a relationship, what I give in a relationship? What have I learned about my self-love and just how I move about in the world? Like, am I more tender with myself in the last 2 years? Have I become less tender? This is a time to really think about that, and also to think about our relationship with money, of course. So that's the first thing. Then we want to look to what sign is Venus in as it goes retrograde. And Venus is in the sign of Gemini, my gregarious twins, the zodiac sign that speaks to the power and the potency of partnership, right? We see that in the duality, the duo-ness of a couple, of the you and the me and the we. So for this Venus cycle to go retrograde in the sign of the twins, again, it just packs an extra little punch in terms of like, this is part of love and relationships, is dealing with another person. Am I right? So we know Gemini rules communications. Gemini also rules like being in close quarters, like neighborhoods. It rules siblings, cousins. It really has us look at too, like, what is the message that we're projecting out to the world? How do we consume information? What are we writing? Are we working on, like, matters from the heart? These are all very like Gemini principles. And so I'm going to break down just a few of the things that I wanted to invite us all to do to make the most of this Venus in Gemini retrograde cycle. So the first thing is, we know that all retrogrades bring the opportunity to think about the re-word. What do you want to redo, reassess, revisit within your own life? So the first thing, just to get it out of the way, the nitty-gritty, let's just take a little reassessment, reevaluation of your finances. Venus rules finances. So if you're in a partnership, especially, that's very Gemini, thinking about, okay, like, what do we need to do together? How can we talk about finances a little differently? Is there some paperwork you've been putting off? Is there something that's just been like hanging out there? I know me and my business partner squared away some long overdue financial paperwork this week, and it felt really good. The thing about Venus and Gemini is, once you do that thing, there's like an effervescence in energy, a new wave of like fresh air that comes in after doing that thing that you've been putting off. So that's my first re for you. The second thing I want you to do is, I want you to revisit things that you just thought were true about life, things that you just thought were one way and revisit it with curiosity. Whether that's looking at your partner with curiosity, whether it's looking at something that you've been working on, a problem you've been wrestling with, thinking about how can you get curious, or maybe it's revisiting a larger, like a social or political issue, and just thinking like, okay, why do I think that? Who said that had to be that way? This element of curiosity is very Gemini. So when we get to relook at something with curiosity, not from a place of judgment or a place of projection, we often, again, that effervescence, new things open up for us, new ways of being. So I invite you definitely to do that. Let's talk now a little bit more about our interpersonal relationships. So some things that we can do with the words for that are we're going to definitely recommit to our communications. How have our communications been in this quarantine? In some ways, they might feel like you're doing more communicating than ever. In other ways, we're also a little bit like self-isolating or spending so much time with someone. How can we learn more about our communications? I love studying, active listening, structured dialoguing. There's so many amazing books and resources about just how to up-level your communication. I know my friend Colin always speaks about Harville Hendricks. Him and his wife are the master of this. So his book, I think it's Getting the Love You Want, is like the first book. And even if you already are in a relationship, it speaks so much about how we can take your communication to the next level. So on that same note of relationships, the word I want us to think about here, and this is a big one right now, redefining our boundaries. I heard Esther Perel talking about this the other day, is like some of us are feeling a little off in our relationships and in our sense of individuality because quarantine has really tested our boundaries. We're with our people 24/7, or we're by ourselves 24/7, and we have to create our own boundaries. The boundaries we used to have, like getting into the office, getting to an event, getting to a workout class on a time boundary, don't really exist anymore. They don't exist anymore. And same thing with partners. Like, you can sit at a table and do your computer work. And she mentioned, like, don't just close the laptop, push aside, and eat dinner in that same spot. It's like redefining boundaries in your schedule and in your spaces will feel like, again, that rush of that effervescence, fresh air, Gemini. So that's an invitation. And then the last thing that I want you to think about, Gemini is the writer, is the communicator, is the divine messenger of the zodiac. And this whole thing, the whole Venus cycle, love, pleasure, a lot of this is wrapped up in our worthiness. How much do we think that we're worth? Money. How much love do we think we're worth? How much do we think we're worthy of receiving? Our brains have this pesky negativity bias that just wants to think that, we are only worth this much. And anything we do outside of that puts us in a risk of failing or not belonging or feeling like ashamed, again, tying into failure. But when we get to rewrite things, and I think writing is an amazing tool, journaling, for rewriting and positively imprinting our neural pathways with a new way of being, we can rewrite our worthiness. We can think about, okay, maybe I had that misconception or I had that idea implanted in me as a child, but I'm ready to rewrite that, and I'm ready to speak truth to and validate the parts of me that I know are worthy. And writing on it, again, it's training our brain to see more of our worthiness. So you could sit down and you could write all the things about you that you know are true, the really beautiful things about yourself. Or you could write about yourself, these are the things I did that maybe weren't so great, but I am still worthy. I'm still worthy of receiving. And you could write out 10 things you want to receive. And I want you to just physically rewrite this, or just thinking about how can you expand your mind, expand your heart, expand the container for your own worthiness. So those are some of my favorite reads. The list could go on and on and on, but that was something that, all of those really spoke to me for this Venus retrograde. I want to add one more for a bonus, and shout out to Marisa Sullivan, a brilliant sex educator, came on our Instagram, YouTube last month and talked about the beauty of digesting pleasure and then redigesting it. So maybe we can't go on the fun date nights we used to, or the big adventures, the big trips, but she said there's something equally important that brings all those pleasure hormones to our brain when we redigest something. Remember that first time we met, remember our first kiss, remember that trip we took and we went out on that boat and how amazing that was. So this is another great little bonus especially if you're feeling stir crazy at home, or like you just miss some of those other adventures, dates, or experiences you used to go on. So let me know in the comments below what resonates with you. Let me know what you're working on. I love hearing from you. Definitely like and subscribe to the channel. If you don't, we have new videos that drop every Friday. And if you're not already, follow us on Instagram at The Cosmic Revolution for daily inspiration and weekly cosmic energy updates. Okay, until next time, show yourself lots and lots of love. And remember, you are worthy AF.